Hey everyone. Welcome back to Strange Minds 6. I'm your host Ruby. Today we're going to be getting back into the Octunnumi by Trevor Allen Forrest. Before this, I want to say go ahead, grab your snacks, grab your drinks, sit back, relax, and let's get into it, shall we? Yo, Nate. Fully conscious now, though still a little pale, Nathaniel Fosbit, enjoying yet another Regine as yet another 22-year-old in age he has established serves him best in Fethris, teenagers being less than respected, and 20-something just about cutting it is the extreme sports arena. Maneuvers himself into an upright position, into the bed, and grins broadly as he greets his friend. Nate, Trad nods as he wanders to the end of the bed and leans on one of the 4 posts. Long time. Nate's smile stiffens slightly as he acknowledges him. So, close call, Nate? Reg says as he sits on the edge of the bed. So I've been told. He grins. How did you know I was in trouble? Us? Trad asks, surprised at the question. Yeah, I'm guessing that's how I got here? Nate says. I'm in the headquarters, right? One of the suites? The suite, if I am not mistaken. Nate, we didn't even know you were in the city, let alone in trouble. Reg replies. Then, you don't remember? Trad asks as his demeanor across the room to the window. That's the thing, Nate replies. I remember nothing before today, and I mean nothing. Everything's gone. Well, I mean, I know what's happened over the years. Got the updates. He laughs, tapping his head. As soon as I woke up, it's like I'd never left. All the info. He clicks his finger. Bam, and it's all there. But it's like I just can't access the thoughts, he continues. The memories, images, nothing. He looks at his hands. I've been trying since I came around. Fiona thinks it could have been the after effect of the drug, but really, the only thing I remember clearly is meeting with this girl for a coffee. Hot, fit, late teens? Trad smirks. I'm not sure I like your tone there, Trad, Nate states, but yes, he hesitates. Staring at Trad for a moment. I would say she is an attractive girl, but... And you fancy your chances, huh, Nate? Trad turns to face him. Absolutely not. I'm not sure, he flusters. I think she needs protecting. Well, of course you would think that, wouldn't you? Okay, Trad. Reg raises his hand. Let's just hear what Nate has to say, shall we? So, let's start with the girl. What can you tell us about her, Nate? Not much, really, he says, raking his hand through his hair and readjusting his position. Like I said, I remember the coffee. Gracie, that's her name. She was a freelance writer. He pauses. Well, Gracie approached me for research. She said she was doing an article on extreme sports. Glancing at Trad, he continues, something I've become quite good at over the years. No, Nate. Trad laughs. No, you haven't. What are you trying to say? Oh, I don't know, Trad replies as he throws images of Nate's many regenerations into the air. How many times has it killed you? It has its dangers, Nate's reply. So do something else, Trad says, clearing the images. What would you have me do, Trad? Nate sneers. Knitting? At least that doesn't require you to die, Trad throws back. And who knows, you might even get a nice pair of socks out of it. What's the point of being immortal, Nate asks, if you cannot take risks? We are not immortal. We regenerate. That's just semantics, Trad. I'm still me. I still have all the thoughts, emotions, and memories. Well, he gestures his head. I will have. My consciousness is immortal. I do know how this works, Nate, Trad snaps, stopping abruptly at the side of the bed. Just checking. Okay, you two, cut it out, Reg interrupts. And by the way, he looks at his brother and then Nate. I'll have you know, there is nothing wrong with knitting. Turning his attention back to his friend, he continues. So, Nate. Whoa, holding his hand up. Trad laughs. Just a minute. There's nothing wrong with knitting? The sarcasm is not missed. What the hell do you know about knitting? Slumping his shoulders, Reg sighs as the narrator chimes in. Don't tell him, Mr. Regis. Last year's winter solstice. Don't say you haven't been warned. That fancy jumper? Yes. You. Here we go. Me. Not Vithjin. Not Vithjin. Whoa. Well, Reg, it would seem you have hidden depths after all. Girly ones, but still. Trad's grin widens. You only have yourself to blame, Mr. Regis. Oh, that's just so you, Trad. Reg stands and leans over the bed slightly towards him. So quick to judge. Who says knitting is for women? And only women. Huh? There are plenty of men who knit also, Trad. Well said, Mr. Regis. Like who? Trad retorts. Well, let's see. Like me, Trad. Like me. He snaps. Look, when you've been going as long as we have, you try everything, right? Becoming more agitated, he leans in further over the bed. Perhaps you should give it a go. You might be surprised. I fear you are wasting your breath, Mr. Regis. Don't even begin to start telling me how to live my life, any life, Trad retorts. Wow. Nate looks at both of them. Hundreds of years have taken their toll on the brotherly love, then. There's a moment's silence. Reg takes a deep breath and focuses his attention back on Nate. So, Nate, tell me about the girl. And we didn't tell him because... Next chapter. Working its way across the atrium, the transport pod glides over the small groups of visiting families gathering around the edges of the lagoon. The regulars making their way to the best spots from which to witness the Litu Laminioni ceremony. The event itself, held every night at dusk, was never intended to hold such importance, merely being the time of day that required the lighting of the atrium, but due to the spectacle, it had always drawn families from even the farthest insomnids, and had slowly developed into a nightly show of sophisticated musical lights displayed and theatrical delights in which talent, new and old, from all sectors, were encouraged to take part. As the pod starts to climb, the boys face each other while leaning against the brass rail that runs around the inside of the glass orb. Because he clearly doesn't know, Reg replies, as he absently minded watches the layered dials that dominate the century of the pod. The varying sizes showing speed, route, destination, and places of interest. How can he not know? Trad asks. He's a Regine. Even without his abilities in Fethris, he can still read people, especially, he adds, a relative. Oh, I don't know, Reg chuckles. I seem to remember. Don't even, Trad warns, cut short by the ceremony's opening acoustics striking up, tonight being the turn of the concertists in Summit's brass band. Trad and Reg watch as bursts of tiny sparkling white lights shower through the air around the pod, resembling the fallout from a firework, followed by hundreds of illuminated spheres being released toward eager little faces running excitedly to catch them as they float gently to the ground. And so the ceremony begins. Taking a moment to watch the synchronized display around them in full swing, the boys are reminded of the many, many times they too have stood in awe of the fantastic event which, as they wait for the theatrical moon and stars to drop and hang suspended from the girders of the glass roof, still manage to impress them even now. Interrupted by the dials, whir and click, indicating an approaching point of interest, Trad moves to get a better view of the water falling in a continuous, glistening cascade from the uppermost level of the atrium to the lagoon below. We are, of course, assuming she is his daughter, Reg says, joining him just as they pass over the lagoon. The waterfall is suddenly filled with tumbling dots of light, sending out clusters of mini rainbows throughout the atrium. Why did we not come to see this anymore? Reg asks. Before Trad can answer, he holds up his hand, muttering, I know. So, Trad says, as they break away from the display, leaning back again on the rail. Let's say we believe Nate's story. He recently regenerated, following yet another death by stupidity. Base jumping, Reg corrects him. No, I think stupidity covers it, Mr. Regis. A succession of lights ripple, sparkle, and shine in time to the music as they and the other pods maneuvering their way around each other, negotiating the bridges and walkways, become part of the display, rising ever higher until finally arriving at its destination. The pod slows before engaging with the disembarking platform. As I said, stupidity, Trad reiterates. Then, within a year of him reappearing on the stupidity scene, as it comes to a halt, the fine ironwork encasing the glass pod melts away. Base jumping, Reed states again. Tapping the glass, he waits for the doors to fully open and steps out. Nate suddenly from nowhere, Trad continues as he follows Reed out onto the balcony beyond the pod, turns up at the Octunnumi, the location of which he could not have known, with a daughter. Alleged, Reed states, resting his hands on the intricate ironwork that encases the platform as it starts to climb the remaining levels. She called him Dad, Trad exclaims, as the balcony comes to a stop a few floors short of the glass roof above. As it connects onto a larger viewing deck, the iron railings flow around the walkway toward a wall of leaded glass windows, each towering section framed by elaborate riveted metal, making for a stunning panoramic view outside and across the merchants' sector below them. The bazaar at the center of this sprawling metropolis, serves as the main trading and social meeting place for all insumids linked to the Alliance. From this specialist sectors have sprouted, filling the landscape beyond, covering the hills, straddling the valleys and waterways, stretching up to the old phosphate estate, which stands looking blankly back at the Octunnumi headquarters. Reed shrugs, staring out at the hubbub of the market below. Well, I certainly didn't know anything about her, he states, as they both continue along the walkway, exchanging greetings with fellow members, and neither did Nate, leaving behind the admiring gasps and applause from the Litulamignoni ceremony. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. The walkway into a cavernous reception hall, the officially recognized entrance for Alliance members. The night sky can be seen from the numerous windows set around the gallery, some 50 meters up, the silver moonlight bouncing its brilliance from the mellow stone of the dome above, flowing back down into the room, highlighting the series of connecting staircases hugging the curved walls that give access to the gallery. This is the place to be if you have to get somewhere, anywhere, the place that leads to all places. There are, of course, numerous access points around the country, the world even, but only a few provided, as was the case here, the shortest route to the furthest places. Originally, just a handful of unmarked access points, doors, had been introduced to mark the insomids and had, in the beginning, been orderly, neatly arranged in front of curved walls, but that was when the alliance had few members. As more insomids were created, then more doors would happen to appear, until eventually doors of various designs, sizes, and shapes, each with their own unique little platforms, created a sea of islands throughout. When the ground level had reached capacity, the doors started to climb on stilts, pillars, floating, twisting steps, rickety ladders, or grand sweeping staircases, pulleys, and lifts, each employing its own representative of the insomid beyond, ready to welcome new visitors and greet old friends. Although without doubt one of the busiest, it was also one of the quietest and most orderly of the Octunnumi public spaces, everyone going about their business in dignified manner, hushed conversations being conducted with barely a sound, with the most demanding time of the year fast approaching. The individual access points are a hive of activity, frantically preparing for the arrival of their heads of state, kings, queens, dignitaries, and statesmen, and of course the subsequent deluge of festival goers that will follow. I see Reggie's on the case, Trad comments as the boys work their way through the reception hall. Mr. Ward is nothing if not prepared, Reg comments as he ducks under a raft of wood, carrying several passengers being hoisted up to an access door above them. He does know there is no access through there for at least another 5 years. Chad asks, indicating Mr. Ward overseeing a maintenance crew at the only door that appeared to be inactive. He certainly likes to be on top of things, Reg chuckles. He's been up there every week since it was closed off. The door in question, when operational, led to Nelia, their home in Summit, one that could only be accessed according to certain lunar activity, only of which made much sense to the boys or most other people. A moment passes as they watch Mr. Ward busily orchestrating the polishing of already gleaming metalwork, the sweeping and shining of already immaculately clean steps. So, Trad starts as he leans into Reg. Is he here? He looks toward the ceiling. Following his gaze, Reg is at a loss. I believe Mr. Traden is referring to me, sir. Oh, you mean Trevor. Reg smiles as they resume walking. Yes, of course. So, is he mad, you know? Trad asks, for not being in my head? I could care less. I know we've had this discussion before, Trad continues, but you don't find that in any way strange? Why would it be? Trevor? Reg asks. Of course not. Why should I? Because it is a voice that relates your every move your every thought and we can hear it. That's strange. Not at all. He's always been there, Reg replies, as he nods a greeting to the hobgoblin stationed at foot-high double doors. Regards to the wife, Sid, he says as they approach. Thank you muchly, the small man replies to Reg as they step over the little island housing his insomid door. I think I would find it strange if Trevor was not there. Reg continues. Don't you miss him? Very kind of you, Mr. Regis. No, Trad stresses. And I still don't get why you have him anyway. Everybody has a life narrator, Reg replies. And have conversations with it? Trad questions. We can, yes. And it's Trevor, not it. Thank you, Mr. Regis. My pleasure. Reg flashes a smile. So he's butting in, Trad says, realizing who the smile was for. Bit rude. Me? Rude? That's rich. He's not butting in, Trad. As you well know, I choose to listen, Reg states, and you do have the option to hear him as well. It's never bothered you in the past. The very opposite, in fact. You have been known to be quite pally with Trevor, Reg smiles. Quite the chatterbox. Rubbish, Sasha? Sasha? What about Sasha? Trad blushes slightly at the reference. I don't know, Reg shrugs. Trevor just said Sasha. Huh? Thought I had forgotten, didn't he? I thought he'd forgotten about that, Trad mumbles. I forget nothing. He says he forgets nothing. He told me. Trad nods. Great. He better not have told anyone else. My word is my bond. He says his word is his bond. Trad interrupts again. I know. He told me that too. But he's relaying everything. I edit. Sorry, you guys. One moment. I edit. Private thoughts are private thoughts. He doesn't relay everything. He knows this. He edits. Reg sighs. Look, you know all of this. Trevor has been with us from birth and will be with us until time stops. And as you know, he sends the operational reports back home. He still does that? Without fail. Yes, but I thought we had lost contact. Well, he still sends the transmissions in hope that they can still pick up. Right. And you can opt back in, you know. Reg looks at his brother. You know, hear him again. You just have to say the word. Before it's too late. What's too late? Reg says. Oh, nothing. Trevor. Well, Mr. Regis, sir, if one does not take the time to listen to one's inner self, then the connection is lost. What? Trad looks at his brother for an explanation. What's he saying? He says you could lose connection. He replies, for good. You know, if you don't check in. Oh, right. Well, Trad hesitates. Well, whatever, I'm good, he continues. No one else has their life narrator jabbering in their ear. Again with the insults. So, no thanks. No. Just maintain narrator silence for me. Suits me. So, no knowing without a doubt? Reg asks, no little voice pointing you to the right direction. No, just me and my thoughts, Trad smiles. Just you, then. Stifling a smile, Reg follows Trad as they pass through the city gates into the domestic quarters. The warren of the corridor, arches and stairs before them create a complex series of interlocking buildings that are home to members of staff stationed at the Octunnumi. It is possible, though not advisable without a guide, to walk around the entire city. It is rumored that Elizabeth Thistledown still wanders the halls, though she has not been sighted for a few hundreds of years now, and as a direct result, groups of search teams have been stationed at random locations throughout the various sections for those who choose to try it alone. So, Trad says, as they head down one of the bustling passageways, the height of its sweeping ceiling absorbing the sound of the entertainers tucked into archways either side. Is it just me, or is there something not quite right with Nate? I'm inclined to think your brother has a point, Mr. Regis. Really? Reg snipes. The guy has just been drugged. That's my point, Trad replies. What point? How come he came straight to the Octunnumi? He's been drugged, Trad says. He hasn't had contact with the Octunnumi or anyone at the Octunnumi. Present company expected for who knows how long, and yet he comes straight to us? Exactly. He did have the Echosoralis. Reg hesitates. Well, the girl had it, and he didn't get here on his own. She brought him. The sounds of the passageway are lost to the open space of the main plaza, replaced by the hushed chatter that good food and friendly company provides. The gentle lull weaves its way around the tables and chairs, the fountains of mime artists that share the space before them. The bright rhythmic notes of the pianist dance out from the raised podium at their center. Skirting the edges, Reg and Trad head for one of the many lift cages operating at the various points along the face of the surrounding buildings, structures which at first glance appear to be random collections of architectural styles stacked precariously high and worryingly erratically around a large plaza, and which on closer inspection turn out to be just that. Yes, the Echosoralis. Yeah, about that. Trad looks to Reg. I still don't completely understand why. I mean, he wanted out. Nothing more to do with our way of life, so... Look, I realize... Reg cuts in. As they reach the lift, they require the appropriate call lever and stepping back to wait for the woven wire cage. That was probably not the best thing to have done, but he was in a bad way when he left. He glances at Trad. We all were. And it does offer a level of protection, and it's not like he's abused it or anything. I mean, I only gave it to him years ago. And that's another thing, Trad says. The sphere protects the person it is assigned to, warns us, the Alliance, of any ill will toward them. So why weren't we alerted? And he was genuinely surprised when you mentioned it. Said he had forgotten he even had it. Even as an exile, you don't forget the sphere. He said he had lost it, Reg offers. You don't lose a sphere, Reg. You give them up. The lift shudders slightly, making noises, the mechanics winding down and eventually coming to a stop in front of them. And Trad hesitates. I can't see him. You cannot? He's cloaked. Reg asks in astonishment. I don't know. There's something. Trad pauses. I mean, even if he cannot access his memories, I should be able to, right? Yes. Mr. Trayden most definitely should be able to. Unlatching the gate to the lift, folding it back into the concerned state, Reg steps in. Following him, Trad continues. But that's just it, he says, pulling the gate out to its full stretch and clicking it shut behind it. I can't. And if I can't, it means he must be blocking himself. It's the only explanation. He is intentionally stopping me or anybody accessing his memories, his true self, he concludes. Are you sure you are trying? I mean, you're not exactly known for seeing the best in people you don't like, Reg replies, as he selects and depresses 3 of the numbered key top levers just inside of the lift doors. So true. Hey, it's not all fun and games, you know, Trad replies. Seeing the true self, the first incarnation, and I can't see anything in Nate. Nothing. Just what he wants me to see. Well, Reed says, grinning at his brother, you have been wrong before. Well, if you're gonna bring up Delilah again, oh yes, do. Just saying, Reg smiles as he sits, which reminds me, I haven't reported the Delilah incident yet. I wasn't on official business, so, still. Reg shrugs. What you mean is, you haven't told Mom yet. Trad, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Fine, Trad retaliates. Okay, fine. In that case, I will tell Mom about he has nothing. That, I tell you, nothing. That vase you broke. Trad leans back against the ironwork, hands in pocket. Oh, that. What, the one in her bedroom? Reg looks surprised. Yes, the Moorcroft. The one your father had especially commissioned. Yup. Before Moorcroft became Moorcroft, of course, so one of a kind. It was like 100 years ago. I was 5. 7. And, or was it 8? And if that's all you've got, Reg snorts, knock yourself out. Oh, I have much more. Just keeping it in order. You mean, Reg laughs, you're gonna release everything I've ever done in chronological order. How else? Works for me. Oh, right. I didn't realize we were holding stuff from way back. In that case, let's start with Bones. Reg stands as the cage slowly slows and the seat folds back. He will not remember. Bones? Told you. More specifically, the bones that you gave to the neighbor's dog. Wait for it. Oh, that. And he's got it. Trad smiles and nods his head at the memory of the event. Yeah, well, he looked hungry anyway. That was Fethris, and long time ago. She hasn't noticed, so let me tell you the flaws of that statement. 1. The bones were decades old, so of no nutritional value to the dog. None whatsoever. But 2. It's safe to say the dog buried them. Oh, he did. Well, which brings me to 3. And I have to say the one I most enjoy. The bones were part of Mom's study collection of a species not known, seen, or documented as ever being on the planet, let alone in Fethris Insomid. He smiles. So when they turn up, and we both know they will, well... Slowly, the lift pulls sideways into a passing point and whirs to complete stop. We're here, Reg says, pulling back the folding door. Where's here? Trad asks, looking up directly at the numbers. 271. Oh, here, he mumbles. Works every time. Keep him talking, and he notices nothing. Yes, come on. Why? Really, Trad? Reg is exasperated. You were in the room. You were right there. He was asleep. The briefing, Reg continues. I'm surprised you didn't notice. Yeah, but it's Mum, Trad replies, while mimicking with his hands, you know, blah blah. What, with the snoring? Trevor says you were asleep, Reg says, yanking on the bell, pulling to the apartment. Does he... Okay, look, Trad says, in my defense, we used to fall asleep listening to that voice telling bedtime stories. Well, I don't know about you, Reg states, but she stopped telling me bedtime stories a long time ago. Yeah, well, her voice still has the same effect. Told you. Turning away from Reg, Trad proceeds to pull down a seat. Do not let him sit, Mr. Regis. What are you doing? Reach asks. Not going in there, that's what. Trad sits, arms folded. Why not? You know why. Look, Reach sighs. We need Vethjin to help Nate. You said yourself you cannot see his original incarnation. Well, if anyone can, it will be Vethjin. You go ahead, Trad says. Let me know what you find. Reg looks at his brother for a moment before saying, It's not fair on Veeth, you know, as he leans back against the lift. Look, I know how much you blamed yourself for Pemidi. Still do, but we all lost our charges that day. He pauses. Veeth lost her sister. You don't say, Trav retorts. How did I miss that bit of information? So this is not about Pemidi? No. So, Teget. Reed sighs. And how long are you planning on avoiding Veeth this time? He asks, Until you find her? Who says I'm looking? Huh. And I suppose the people of Ythren Steve in Somnid do not win the jive contest every year. Well, let me see now. Reach looks to the ceiling, then back at Trad. Oh, because you always do. Touche. Oh yeah, it's so funny. It is actually. Reg yanks the bell again. It's the gift that keeps giving. Of course, it is for you, Trad replies sulky. I mean, you and Veeth. It might be different this time, Reg comments. And unicorns don't exist. Sure, Trad snips. Years of regens, and this time it's going to be different. Which of course they do. It could be. Well, in a fashion. She always hates me. Trad scuffs the floor with his boots. No, she does not. That doesn't surprise me, Reg grins. What surprises me is that she ends up liking you. Mr. Regis, have a heart. Whatever, Trad mumbles as he slouches further into his seat. Anyway, you have to go in. Why? Wait, he's going for the age. 'Cause you're older. Difference. By 2 minutes, Reach laughs. 2 minutes is 2 minutes, says Trad. And that, my dear friends, will be the end of this chapter. Tune in next time for the following chapter with Veeth. And let's see if Trad actually goes in, shall we? Please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not already. And to all my dear friends, it was great having you come by. And this is Ruby, signing off.